Welcome to RTO Insights, brought to you by APRO, the Association of Progressive Rental Organizations, the National Trade Association for the Rent-to-Own Industry, and sponsored by Rent Direct, a division of Nationwide, the country's largest retail buying group. Today I thought we would talk a little bit about tire and wheel rental, which is a fairly new business segment in the rent-to-own industry and is one of the fastest growing segments in the industry. It began with wheels, fancy chrome wheels that can cost at retail $2,000 to $5,000 for a set of four. They're called in the parlance rims, blades, spokes, dubs. There was some success renting wheels to young testosterone-laden youths. There was some success with wheels early on because cars all look like Camrys today. Back in the 50s and the 60s, that was not the case. The folks in Detroit restyle their cars every year, and they made fancy changes and exotic changes. And we, those of us that grew up in that era, 50s, 60s, and even in the early 70s, defined ourselves by the kind of cars that we drove and what they looked like. Gas was 30 cents a gallon. When gas jumped to $1 a gallon, and today is $3 a gallon and sometimes $4 a gallon, the marketplace drove car manufacturers to make aerodynamically efficient cars, and they all look alike. So if you have some of your ego invested in the vehicle that you drive, you might want to pimp your ride, as they say on TV. One of the ways you do that is with fancy wheels. But the marketplace is limited, and the tire and wheel rental business really did not take off until dealers focused on tires instead of wheels, because tires, after all, are necessities if you've got a car. According to the Federal Trade Commission, 85% of rent-to-own customers have one or more vehicles, so they need tires. As for me, I've been driving since 1960. For all of my life, I bought tires that cost 50 bucks. I was not trying to be a race car driver. I was trying to get good tires, and that's what they cost. All of a sudden, I look around one day, and the cheapest tires I can find for my cars these days are $150, and I'm lucky if I can find them at that price. So the price point for tires, if you got to buy a set that's $600 and up, $600 to $1,200 bucks, is a sweet spot for the rent-to-own business generally. Plus, tires are necessities of modern 20th century life. You got to have tires with a tread on them in order to get your car inspected, and you can't drive a car unless you have an active, or at least you're not supposed to, unless you have an active inspection sticker and insurance. The business segment is not without its issues. You need to learn about the products, of which there are an infinite variety of both tires and wheels. You've got to create a space where you can install wheels and uninstall wheels and tires if you need to. There are issues of what to do with used tires when a customer brings in his old tires. What do you do with them? Do you throw them away? Do you make the customer keep them? What are you going to do when the customer brings his tires and wheels back and says, I don't want them anymore, but I don't want you to leave my car on the rims in the back of your store? There are occasional horror stories in the industry about cars left up on blocks in a customer's driveway and midnight repossessions of tires and wheels, fairly unpleasant. There are issues with banks and car lots who repossess cars from customers who default, and those repossessed cars have brand new, nice, shiny wheels and brand new tires on them, and the bank and the car lots don't want to give those tires and wheels back, obviously, since it adds value to their collateral. The law is very clear. The rent-to-own dealer has a preference to recover his tires and wheels from the bank and or the car lot that's repossessed the vehicle. And in the few lawsuits that have been brought, rent-to-own dealers have always won, but it nonetheless is an aspect of this business that has caused some difficulty. Over the past few years, this segment of the industry has been probably the fastest growing. It is keeping customers safe on good tires and rolling wherever they need to roll. So if you haven't taken a look at tires and wheels as a business segment, maybe you want to. I'm Ed Wynn III, APRO General Counsel. Remember, treat your customers like royalty. They deserve it.